Hi, everybody. Hopefully this will be a very quick and easy lesson on how to annotate a screen or presentation that you are sharing with your students in Google Meet while you're doing distance learning. You'll notice I've already sort of gone to my Google Classroom. I've clicked on Google Meet and it's opened it up in this new tab. But please notice that I have not joined the Meet yet because I'm going to show you a way not only to annotate on a presentation, but also have the students' view of their cameras on one side of your screen, very small, and then have the presentation that you're annotating on the rest of your screen very big, so you'll be able to see what you're annotating and your students at the same time. So we're going to start here. In Google Meet, we're actually going to use what's called a progressive web app. It's kind of fancy and all, but basically the apps that you have on your phone and your tablet, those you download to the device. Progressive web apps live in the cloud. And you already have a progressive web app of Google Meet installed on your Chromebooks. You just may never have used it before. But if you're in Google Meet and you're in your Chrome browser, like I am here, look at your address bar, right, where it says meet.google.com, and look all the way over to the right, and you'll see an icon that looks like a square with an arrow coming out of it. If you hover your cursor over it, it'll even say, to open this link, choose an app. And we're going to be choosing the Google Meet progressive web app. So I'm going to click on that. It should appear with open with, and Google Meet's already selected. It's the only one there. So I'm going to hit open, and when I do, you'll notice that instead of being in a tab in my browser with an address bar and everything, it will launch as its own separate window. So watch this. Hit open. And now we have it as its own separate window. Okay. I'm going to take my Google Meet here, and I'm going to, for the moment, just make it take up half of my screen instead of the whole screen. And we're gonna edit this a little bit. But the easiest way to do it on your Chromebook is to hold down the Alt button and press either the right or the left bracket. Those keys are located just to the right of the letter P. If I hold down Alt and press the right bracket, notice my Google Meet goes and takes up just the half of the right-hand side of the screen. If I did Alt and the left bracket, it takes up the left-hand side of the screen. It really just depends on which side you're more comfortable having your video on. I'm going to put mine back over to the right. Okay. I can also see the tab open over here that I'm going to eventually present. And we'll get to that in just a second. But now that I have the Google Meet and it's kind of at a halfway size screen, I'm going to go ahead and join it. I already have a sample student in this call as well, just for purposes of example here. So right now I'm at about halfway size. And I'm going to go ahead and present my screen. Right? I'm going to go ahead and hit present. And I'm going to be presenting a tab, right? It's this tab that I have this Google Slides presentation open in. So I'm going to present a tab. I'm going to choose that tab. There it is, right? Long and short vowel sounds. I'm going to hit share. Now, when you do that, it automatically takes you to the tab that you are presenting. You can see at the top, right, that you are sharing this tab. Well, that same thing I did with the Alt and the right bracket to make my Google Meet go over to the right-hand side of the screen, I'm going to do the same thing here, except I'm going to use the left bracket. I'm going to do Alt and to the left. So now on half of my screen, I have my presentation, and on the other half of my screen, I have my Google Meet. But that's not a very good size, right? I mean, my presentation is very, very small, and if I were to try to write and annotate on that, it would be a giant mess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this screen. And if you did what I did and did the Alt and brackets, and they're taking up an equal side of the screen, if you put your cursor right in between the two and just leave it there for just a quarter of a second, you'll see this little black box appear with two arrows facing in opposite directions. If I, there we go, there it is. If I hold it and drag it this way, notice my Google Meet screen is shrinking to a nice size, and it might take a second for your presentation to sort of match it, but your presentation is going to grow, right, to fill up more of your screen, right? Now I can start annotating, right, because I'm at a pretty good size. By the way, if you wanted to shrink the presentation, or I'm sorry, the Google Meet even more, Instead of using this, the little black box that appears, just put your cursor right on the edge, click and drag it a little bit more, right? You can kind of hide some of the presentation if you want to, right? If you click on the Google Meet, you can do the same thing to it, right? So if you want to shrink it, whoops, sorry, I maximized it there, but right, if I want to shrink it even more, right, I can shrink it and kind of even push it off to the right-hand side a little bit, right? It does hide like my hang up button and everything, but I only need to use that like once a class, so I can kind of move it over to the side a little bit. I can still see all my students appear in the screen there. I move my presentation over so that it matches it, right? And so my presentation's pretty big. My Meet with the kids is pretty small over on the right-hand side of the screen. Now, look at the screen that you are presenting, right? The tab that you're presenting. In my screen, it's this Google Slide presentation. Well, in your Chrome browser, you have lots of little extensions. Here I am moving my cursor over top of them. I've got a bunch of them up here. Depending on your settings and what you've done to your computer, you may have more or less than I do, right? But one of the extensions that I've already installed for you, it looks like a little red pen. If you put your cursor over it, it's called Page Marker. If you don't see it in your extension bar, click on the little gray puzzle piece to the far right-hand side. If you click on that, that shows you every extension you have. The ones that the push pin icon is blue means that it is pinned to your browser and it always appears next to your address bar. If it's grayed out, that means it's hidden unless you hit that puzzle piece. But if you scroll down and find PageMaker and it has a gray push pin, just click the push pin and it turns blue, and then you will have that little red pen marker on your browser extension for all time. So now when you click this, right, and the first time you do it, it might take a second to pop up. Here I've got my little interactive annotation tool. I can move this around the page to wherever it's handy, and especially with my Google Slides, I've got a little section right over here where there's a bunch of those little slide previews. I can just move it right over there. I can pick what color I want my writing to be in. I can choose either a marker tool, which will draw over top of everything, or I can choose a highlighter, which just highlights but still shows what's underneath it. I can adjust the size, right? So the smaller, right, over to the left-hand side is the smaller the line. Move this bar over to the right-hand side, the thicker the line will be. So it just all depends on what you're annotating, what you're using it for. When you are done, right, if you want to save the annotation, there's a little download and save button. If you want to erase things you've done, there's an eraser. If you want to clear your entire screen, you can just clear every bit of annotation you've done. And when you're finished doing all of your annotating and you're ready to end, you can just hit close. But watch what I'm going to do here, right? I've now chosen a color, and we're just going to go to green, right? Nice friendly green color, right? And now I can use my touch screen even to do this, or I can use my mouse. I've got my marker on, and I can now draw on my screen. I can, again, go back and choose the color, right? I can use this pen, which goes on top of everything, or I can change it to the highlighter, right? And it just highlights it. And the nice thing is that on the student screen, those annotations show up, right? So when they're watching the presentation on their screen, they're seeing all the markups that I'm doing. I'm going to change this to another color. There we go. Let's maybe make this one blue. Right. We're going to make the size even bigger, right? So I can show you what like a really thick annotation looks like, right? That's a little bit thicker. Sorry, I moved it up there. There we go. There's really thick, right? Crazy big thick, right? I can clear all that, like I said, by clicking the little garbage can icon, and it gets rid of all of it. But the thing is now you can draw and annotate and write little directions and point out things to your students who are looking at your presentation, and still be able to see their bright shining faces over on the right-hand side. Right? So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or want me to help you get set up with this, I'm more than happy to. Thank you very much for your time. All right, see you guys later.